Well, hello there. That battery can last up to 24 hours even with the always-on display turned on. It's pretty cool.
Hello, this is Japanese Economic Review Channel. So glad you could join us. Today, we're going to jump right into the latest inflation numbers for Japan. Let's get to it.
All right, so the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications just dropped the official CPI data for December 2025. This is the report that gives us the clearest picture of what's happening with prices in Japan. So, what's the big story this time around?
Okay, first up, the big one, the headline number. This is the overall CPI, right? It covers pretty much everything, and it was up 2.1% compared to the same time last year. Now, as you know, fresh food prices can jump all over the place. So if we take those out, we get what's called the core index. And that one actually came in a little bit hotter at a 2.4% increase year on year. This gives us a much better feel for the underlying inflation trend.
And, we can go even deeper. Let's strip out energy prices too. That gives us the core index. That number, it rose by 2.9%. So what does that tell us? It suggests that even when you ignore the wild swings from food and fuel, there's still some pretty stubborn price pressure bubbling under the surface. So yeah, all three of these numbers are telling us that inflation is still here. But you know what? That's not the real story. Not by a long shot. The biggest news isn't what the number is, it's how fast that number is changing.
And that right there is the main theme of this entire report. It looks like inflation is finally hitting the brakes. We are seeing a really significant cooling in how fast prices are going up.
Just look at this chart. In November, headline inflation was sitting at 2.9%. Fast forward just 1 month to December, and boom, it's down to 2.1%. That is a massive 0.8 percentage point drop in a single month. We really haven't seen a slowdown that sharp in quite some time.
Seriously, if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. That cool down is the single biggest takeaway. It could signal a real shift in the economy. So of course, the big question is, why? What's putting the brakes on so suddenly?
Well, where did we all get a little bit of relief? The official report points to a few key culprits. A huge one was energy. Lower electricity bills specifically really helped pull that average down. We also saw the crazy fast rise in food prices start to slow down a bit. And on top of all that, things like mobile phone fees and accommodation costs, well, they just weren't pushing prices up as much as they were before.
But to really get a feel for what's going on, we have to look inside the typical shopping basket, right? Let's dig into the specifics. What actually got more expensive and what got cheaper?
And wow, this really shows you the tug-of-war that was happening in everyone's wallet. On the one hand, some prices just cratered. Electricity bills were down, which is great. And get this, the price of cabbage fell by almost 55%. But then you look at the other side, and some absolute staples got way more expensive. Rice was up over 34%, and coffee beans a staggering 48% jump. So yeah, a real mixed bag for shoppers out there.
I just want to pause on that cabbage number for a second. A price drop of over 54% is just massive. And yeah, it's only one item, but believe it or not, it had a real noticeable effect, helping to drag down the overall food inflation number this month. And just so we're all on the same page, remember, all of this data we're digging into comes straight from the official publication by the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. This is the real deal.
Okay, so we've waded through a ton of numbers. Let's step back for a second. What are the big picture takeaways here? Let's break down what this all really means.
Okay, here's what you really need to know. First, inflation is still running above the Bank of Japan's 2% target. That hasn't changed. But second, and this is the most important part, the pace of those price increases has cooled off big time. Third, falling energy costs were a huge reason for that slowdown. And finally, even though your grocery bill probably still feels pretty high, the good news is that even food inflation is showing signs of easing.
So this all leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? Was this sudden cool down in December just a fluke, a one-time thing driven by a drop in energy prices? Or are we actually seeing the beginning of a whole new trend towards more stable prices for the Japanese economy? That right there is what every economist is going to be watching like a hawk in the coming months.
Thank you for watching the Japanese Economic Review. We look forward to having you with us again.